remember at the time also the Gulf War.
Yeah, that was a real fucking piss off. That was, because here we are on our first adventure, and we're in America, you know, doing Unfinished Sympathy video, and hysteria was breaking out in the media in the UK, you know, in terms of how they were responding to playing music and what they were going to put on TV and how they were going to describe things because of this war that was happening, you know. And it was, you know, it was ridiculous. We got caught up in that, and to be honest, you know, we agreed to sort of drop the attack of our name because all the headlines at the time seemed to be saying there's going to be a massive attack on Iraq, and it became a bit of a catchphrase in the press, and it was, you know, it was something that obviously pissed us off, you know, because we had felt no affinity with the sort of, then it sounds weird saying the British-US coalition because it's going on again now, but it was very much about that, and obviously it was not in our name at all. And that might sound a little bit sort of over political, but really at the end of the day, we were caught up in a situation where we didn't know what the fuck to do. We were young, it was our first ever record, and so we got caught up in the politics of that. And looking back at that, you know, sort of despise us for sort of dropping the attack from our name. I remember about the 80s, the Dugout Club in Bristol. My sort of biggest and sort of most complete memory would be this nightclub called the Dugout, where it was the one place in Bristol where everyone sort of got together in terms of the black and white community. You know, it was the only place where the black and white community would ever mix, and it was right on the doorstep of Clifton, which is obviously the sort of more affluent part of Bristol. So it was always under threat of closing every week. You know, week in, week out, there was another protest, or if there was a fight or something happened, there was an incident, the police would be right on it. And that was where it was happening. That was where people listened to all sorts of music. You know, every night was a different type of music. It was a bit of punk, a bit of reggae, a bit of new wave, a bit of soul. Then hip hop came in, and you know, all that was the epicenter of what was happening in Bristol then. You know, it was a hip hop ideal, really. I mean, you know, the idea of looping something up a breakbeat or an old sort of jazz funk song. You know what I mean? The whole kind of rare groove thing that happened. You know what I mean? That was a major. If you think about hip hop before, say, 1980, 85, 84, it was all based on sort of drum programming beats, you know, and then it became this based on sort of old sort of like soul grooves and rhythms, and it all changed. And that, I think everyone took that idea on board. I mean, one thing that we did as a Wild Bunch, which was Miles Johnson's idea, was do this track, The Look of Love, over a simple beat, which was taking the Burt Bacharach song and putting it over the most sparse rhythm track known to man, which was totally odd to take this song, which is a very moving song, and open it out and make it and expose it. And it was really beautiful to do that. And it's an idea we've kept with us ever since, basically. And a lot of people took that idea on board about simplicity, about stripping away everything from something and exposing the pure sound.
I mean, you can't imagine Ghost Town, a track like Ghost Town, going to number one at the moment, can you?
No, you can't at all. You can't imagine a band like the Specials wanting to bother to make a track like Ghost Town to get to number one there. You know. I think it does bring. I think the danger of the way the music business is going, it does bring about a certain amount of despondency in people who take themselves seriously. Because I think the idea is not to take yourself seriously anymore. And I don't mean seriously when people actually suddenly become stars overnight and then they take themselves seriously suddenly out of the blue. I mean that idea of someone who's spent years of their lives, or just, you know, even a short amount of time, really want to do something, to create something, you know, suddenly think, what's the point in being serious about this? No one's being fucking serious, who cares? That's the only danger of what's happening. You know, I think you get these crazy sort of stories about the music biz kind of shaking itself up, thinking, oh, that we can't carry on with this very quick turnover sort of like overnight sensation band. We need to get bands that we develop and grow. We were lucky when we signed in the 90s. The record companies really seemed to genuinely believe that you sign a band for 5 years, 5 albums or whatever, it's going to be a 10, 12 year period. Bands we signed at the same sort of time as Radiohead and Primal Scream, Manic Street Preachers, The Prodigy, and bands that have survived that period. They've been given the freedom to sort of grow and develop with all the crap that goes with it. It's never been easy, you know, because you've had so many wankers involved you've had to get past. But now, if we signed now, we'd have no chance, you know. To make a record like Blue Lines now would be impossible. No one would get it. No one would be interested. The record company wouldn't give you the time of day for that. You know, if it didn't work overnight, fuck it, you know, let's not bother. There'd be no sort of protection 3 years later, no mezzanine 3 years later. Wouldn't be making this record now. It's a different place entirely.